I would say the more people you can talk to, the better. So, and people want to give, they just need to be asked, and everybody wants to put their heart into something that means something to them. You don't know it all, although, my 16-year-old thinks he may know it all, but we always realize we don't know it all. And I just love that there is expertise out there and people who can offer a different viewpoint. I would say that one of the key traits, I think, to being a good CEO of a nonprofit or for-profit is flexible thinking. So try to look all the way around the problem. Obviously, your experience will send you down a path, but we live in complex times, and I think you need to step back and think through things, because the answer that you get immediately may be exactly the opposite, the next day.
Welcome back to another episode here on the Hart and Hustle podcast. We have no other than the CEO and president of the Ronald McDonald House in the Midwest. Is that correct?
Yes, Upper Midwest.
Love it. The Upper Midwest. And what an opportunity it is to really just be in that beautiful space where you're just making so many changing lives, one life at a time. And it's kind of a mix, because it could be a happy place and sometimes even a sad place. So I'll ask you, Jill, when you look back at your career from dreaming of being a sports broadcaster to actually leading a life-changing nonprofit, what's that one moment that made you say, this is exactly where I want to be?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think, when it's articulated that, what we do is we try to add quantity and quality of life to people who are going through the worst of it. And ultimately, I think that is one of the more honorable things one can do with their life, is really helping people at the worst possible moments. And so when that was articulated, I said, you know what, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
I love it. And I'm pretty sure you'd have no regrets at this moment. You're still so far in, and you're like, I'm thankful for it. Any person that gets to say, I've never experienced a nonprofit, I said, if you only do it, it'll change your life. And Jill, I can only imagine that has done that for you. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. And, every experience leads you to where you're supposed to be. And I've always thought of it as just follow the path of fun, the things that light you up inside and make getting up easy. Not that work is always easy, that's why they call it work, but you're in your groove when you really enjoy what you're doing. And so regardless of money or time or location, follow the path that's fun, and that'll lead you right to where you need to be.
Do you remember that moment in your career in the nonprofit world that it was just like oh wow, this is actually my calling?
Yeah, it really stemmed from, I worked for the Minneapolis Downtown Council doing special events, and we were an office of 6. And the only way that I could do these large outdoor events, concerts, car shows, Rib Fest, all these kinds of things, was if I had volunteers. We need more than the other 5 people in the office to help staff beer booths and get the stage ready and all of that. So the moment that I tapped into the volunteer world of people who wanted to give back to something that meant something to them, I just saw that, the ceiling for nonprofit and what you can accomplish, there is none, because of all the people that you can bring to your table to really help you do your job and push the mission forward.
I love this. And I know that running a nonprofit, because we spoke about it on a previous call, that running a nonprofit is just like running a for-profit business. It's Correct. Not just it's not that you're just running a mission, that you're just pushing this mission. You actually have a business side to these things as well. So you're talking about keeping the lights on. You're talking about funding programs and making sure that you continue the mission forward. How do you even balance the heart of the mission with the business side of things?
Well, I think that the right people for this job, it's head and it's heart, right? You have your head and heart, and it kind of meets in the middle. And I always say we may not have stockholders, but we certainly have stakeholders. And the business practices of a nonprofit are the same business practices of a good business. And I received my training on that from the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, who has done an incredible job with coming up with treatments for people with CF to double their life expectancy and more. So it really is about good, sound business practices in every element, in every department, so that you can make sure that you're doing the work that you're supposed to be doing.
Now, I'm really going to make you think a little bit here. You spent over a decade at the Ronald McDonald House.
Yeah.
In that time, has there been a family story that still sticks with you today?
Oh, it is such an honor to be with these families on their journey. The grace that they hold themselves together with is something that I have never experienced. I think one of the stories is at one of our locations, we had two sets of parents. Each had a young daughter who was going through organ transplant. And well, one daughter received her organ transplant, the other was waiting. And the mother of the daughter that received her organ transplant said, if you need a kidney, I want to give her a kidney. So the mom of a very sick girl who was able to get her liver transplant said to the mom of the daughter that needed the kidney transplant, I'm going to do this for you. And of course, the mom said, you can't do this for me. And she said, I'm doing it. And what happened is they put together, what is called a kidney chain. So if you donate a kidney, it may not go directly to that person, but it goes to somebody else to free up. So this young girl who had been sitting on the transplant list for a long time and critically ill received a kidney from a Ronald McDonald House mother.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I could definitely see why that's stuck with you. And and listening to it, it's very, it's emotional to listen to some of these stories. And even just to what you just said, there's some emotion to it as well. How do your team really stay emotionally balanced and strong in the face of something, of this caliber that's happening almost on a daily with you guys?
Yeah, it is I would just want to say that Ronald McDonald House is a happy place. And there are times where we are confronted with kids whose journeys do not end the way that we have hoped. However, all of us agree that being here on the campus of the University of Minnesota, in the state of Minnesota, at Children's Hospital in Minneapolis, Gillette Children's, and Ascension Health up in Duluth, that these kids are getting the best care in the world, hands down, best care. And if things don't go in the way that we would like them to go, we at least know that they got the best care possible. And we are so grateful to get to know these parents and these kids on this really difficult journey.
Yeah. And it all continues with that leadership that you have and how you continue to drive the ship forward. And some nonprofits live and die by their leadership and their boards. What's one thing that you actually wish more nonprofit leaders understood about governance?
I think the board of directors is the key to a fully functional, successful organization. And within that board of directors, the governance committee that recruits and vets potential board members is absolutely critical. I think sometimes leaders in our position just want to get the job just done ourselves. But really, what we need are wonderful people around you who have a skill set that you don't have. And when I talk about the ceiling, that means there is no ceiling, because you can invite anybody to your table who has contacts that you don't, connections that you don't, professional experience that you don't, and bring that into the fold. And that is what you have to realize, is that you have to get people engaged and have them do the work.
Yeah, I found myself actually recently taking over a board, and as you mentioned, you just want to do it all, right? First of all, you exhaust yourself, then it doesn't become fun anymore. However, you have to remember that you are in a leadership role. You have to make sure you delegate the work, and it's not saying don't work alongside them, but a lot of times you got to just let them do it as well, because you want them to feel just as good or feel involved in what that mission actually looks like. And I think a lot of people think that nonprofits run on good intentions only, which is completely 100% false. But, we treat this like a business, because it is a business, ideally. What's one lesson from the for-profit world that nonprofits should steal?
I think that you really take care of your staff. And there used to always be a thing where, well, we don't pay as much because we're nonprofit. I think in this environment, you need to be competitive with your pay and with the benefits that you offer and the kind of culture that you provide. I think that is no different. I think for-profit can steal our people just as much as nonprofit can. And so you want to move forward without regrets and putting the best team together and trying to keep them as long as possible, as long as we are fulfilling our goals each year. I love it when somebody tells me that they want to retire from here. That's a good day for me.
It is.
So I think you really have to provide people the right kind of, living and wage and all of that. Otherwise, they're going to leave. And, what we do is really important. And there's a price for that. So that means you have to have good fundraisers. It means that you have to run this like a business and make sure that your revenues outpace your expenses.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any advices for those that actually want to lead or even start their own nonprofit after all the experience that you've had in this space?
I would say the more people you can talk to, the better. So, and people want to give, they just need to be asked, and everybody wants to put their heart into something that means something to them. You don't know it all, although, my 16-year-old thinks he may know it all, but we always realize we don't know it all. And I just love that there is expertise out there and people who can offer a different viewpoint. I would say that one of the key traits, I think, to being a good CEO of a nonprofit or for-profit is flexible thinking. So try to look all the way around the problem. Obviously, your experience will send you down a path, but we live in complex times, and I think you need to step back and think through things, because the answer that you get immediately may be exactly the opposite, the next day.
I just love that we're having this conversation, because so many people may drive by Ronald McDonald's house and not really understand what's going on in the inside. And this is really the insight of what's happening in the inside of these organizations. I told you I have one close by where I used to just bring bread, because I used to work at a Subway, and we used to have all this bread or meat that we had to get rid of. And I'm like, well, right. Ronald McDonald's house, I don't know how I can help, but maybe this could be of help. But you're also talking about how people can get involved. If you can kind of tell me more ways that people can contribute to such a organization like yours.
Yes. So Ronald McDonald House is all across the country, all across the world. We take care of families whose kids are hospitalized for being critically injured or ill. And here at Ronald McDonald House Upper Midwest, we provide lodging, overnight lodging, 3 meals a day, plus snacks, plus anything else that you need. And all is free of charge. We also have a K through 12 school. Some of our patients that come here are going to be here for a while. So what happens is the whole family moves here, and we have lodging that works for them. And they disenroll from their school at home, enroll in our school, and they're able to continue their education and be with their family. In addition to that, they get to be around other kids whose families are going through the same thing. So that sense of a community becomes very important. So we raise about $7.5 million a year. We get a lot of in-kind, as you say, which is super important to us. And we really directly say what we need. And because we're feeding families 3 meals a day, and we had 6,000 families we served in 2024, food becomes a big part of what we do.
Wow.
So we're lucky we live in the breadbasket here of the U.S. And so we have companies that are willing to donate products, and we have a whole meal team that puts together things. And as for volunteering, we need people to put these meals together, to volunteer, to serve it. We need people to help cook and clean, sit at the desk, mail out things, take part at our events, help us put together auctions. Really, the list is endless of things that people could come in and contribute.
I love this. I'm going to go pivot just a little bit, because I know last time that we spoke, we also talked about innovation in the nonprofit space. And let's really kind of be honest. When we talk about AI, it is everyone's buzzing word, but nonprofits are usually kind of a little slower to even adopt technology. How do you see AI playing a role in what you do, especially when you think about chatbots that could ideally be on a website? It can help with community partners, can help with your patients, can help with volunteers. Is that something that you feel should be implemented in nonprofits? Where are you when it comes to the AI space and putting technology within Ronald McDonald's House?
Absolutely. And we actually have an internal committee right now that is assessing all the ways that we can utilize AI. And just some of our initial findings are that within data entry, we see ourselves. You get a check from somebody, and you copy that and enter that and all of that. And we think that there are ways that duplication can be eliminated. We also, from orientation for our families who are utilizing our services, we think that there are ways we can be more efficient. It's not to say that we hand them an iPad and a computer voice tells them what to do, but it's really
maybe one day.
yeah, but it's really about efficiencies. And the chatbot that we could use on our website to quickly answer questions. I think it's an interesting world. Obviously, it can be a little scary, and we do have patient privacy and all of that. But even taking minutes for all the many meetings we have of our subcommittees and our committees and our board, I think is a great use of AI.
Yeah. You just kind of talked about IT security or just data and security. But I remember you mentioned that you actually invested in IT security. People don't always think about that data privacy when it comes to charities.
Yeah.
But you're really dealing with sensitive donor and patient info. What does it actually look like behind the scenes?
So we have steadily turned the volume up on cybersecurity. There isn't a week that goes by that somebody on my staff doesn't get an email from me, not me, that says to go out and buy gift cards, or my checking account has changed, or whatever it is, that kind of phishing stuff. And it just takes one bad click that your whole system can be infected. So we, because we now have 70 employees who have access to our internet and computers and all of that, we invested about the same amount of dollars, $70,000, to make sure that we are doing all the right things to make that we don't get ransomware and we don't get hacked and all of that. So we have started that procedure, and we just needed some outside help. And I could go find an IT person for probably cost me more than that. But we did find a company that does specialize in nonprofits, and it's going to be our watchdog on something that is very, very important to us.
Yeah, you mentioned the ransomware, especially now, AI, as good as it is, it's also kind of on the opposite side could be dangerous, right? So having that privacy and the IT security is definitely going to be beneficial for not just for nonprofits, I think businesses in general. And I'm happy that you guys already kind of implemented it. I would ask you this question. If you had an unlimited budget, as much money as you needed to really innovate and add things tech-wise into the Ronald McDonald's House, what's one big change that you would actually make tomorrow?
Well, gosh, that's a good question. I think about safety and security. I think we do a good job with that, but upgrades to maybe facial recognition, that kind of thing. It's our sites are within cities and urban areas, and we do have people who come from outstate and small towns and trying to make sure that they feel comfortable. So I would probably hone in on that the most.
Okay. That's good. I love that. I love that answer. And this is a good question right here, Jill. So when we think about our volunteers, I think a lot of times they may not receive their flowers as much as they should. All right. And last time you spoke, you said everyone has value in the nonprofit space.
Yeah.
So what's one thing or a story that you felt that a volunteer really brought value to maybe an event or to what you guys are doing at the Ronald McDonald House in particular?
Oh, I love volunteers. It's a gateway to an organization. I always say that every department is important. I say that to all my department heads. That secretly, I think the volunteer department is the most, because you get people to cross your threshold in one way or another, engage in your nonprofit, and pretty soon, they come to an event and become a donor, or they expand their level of volunteering. I'll tell you, the pandemic did incredible things for our organization in very positive ways. When we, at a time, could not have the amount of volunteers that we usually have, we changed it up, and we said, if you're going to volunteer with us, you need to volunteer at least one day a week and at least a 6-hour shift. And prior to that, we've said, if you want to come in for 30 minutes, that's fine. And they'd have to go through all the training and all the paperwork and all of that. But we couldn't do that anymore. So during this time, we recruited a couple of volunteers since that time who've been coming every Tuesday for 6 hours and making food that we utilize at our sites. And these are people who are incredible cooks, and they are just dedicated, and they are more like my coworkers than my volunteers. And so because they are more like my coworkers and my volunteers, they get RMH merch, holiday gifts, and special recognition. But at this point, they're like, I don't need all of that. I just like coming in here, doing what I do, meet the families. The mission is right in their face, and I just can't. That's just priceless. So the ability of people to commit over a long period of time has made a huge impact.
Yeah, I do. I love that you said volunteers. I looked at them as just my coworkers, because in reality, as you mentioned, there's 6 hours every week. That's actually a lot of time, and valuing them. Because one thing I've realized, even when I speak to my board, is that we all give our time, especially when some of us are not getting paid on a board, right? But we give our time, and our time is valuable, just like our volunteers' time is valuable. So you want to show them that they're appreciated. Yeah, they're there for the mission, but at times, if they're not being treated well by the leader like yourself, then they can go anywhere else and do the same exact thing, but you made it special for them because of the leadership skills that you bring to the table. And I'm going to kind of now talk about the fundraising aspect of this whole nonprofit world. We talked about volunteers, we talked about the IT space, but fundraising, definitely something that could be tough. And I know firsthand, it's not an easy thing to do. But what's been the most creative or maybe even unexpected way someone has raised money for the cause?
Well, there are, what I love about what we do, in addition to having our signature events and regular ways to raise money, we have something called our community fundraising department, which is made of 2 people. And different programs have these, but essentially it's people who want to do a garage sale and give the proceeds to us, or had a kid who stayed in a hospital and he wants to do a lemonade stand. So it's these kinds of events. And normally the way that they are handled at other nonprofits is that, well, just send me the check. Just send me the check. And what we decided to do instead of that is to sort of engage, have templates ready so they can make signs, ask them if they need anything. So, for example, if somebody was doing a backyard party for us, we would ask, do they want to do a silent auction? Because we have X number of items that we could give them to turn into a silent auction and turn into revenue for the event. So they say, great, we'll take that. And then their event, instead of making $500, makes $3,000. And one of us will go to the event, and whether it's a staff member or a volunteer, to show that we appreciate it. And what happens then, instead of either not doing it the next year, they want to do it the next year, and then they don't want to pick a different charity. They want to pick us because we have given them all the support, which is really easy. We have it in little buckets how we can give them the support. And so we've had events like a 5K event that is now, what is it? It is a half marathon, 10-mile, 8-mile, 5K, 3-mile event that occurs in downtown Minneapolis that raises $150,000 a year. That started out as a little community fundraiser. So we have a pickleball tournament that started in a small town in Mankato that is now raising, I think it raised $160,000 last year. And it's just really supporting these people who want to give back. Yes. And I love it. I do.
It is so cool when the community, especially when the community can come together and see the vision and help with the mission. Like, it's truly, especially in a time where we just come out of politics, right? And everything's so divided. But in reality, when you think about the community and how people come together, it doesn't matter, your political party, doesn't matter if you're male, female, doesn't matter if you're white or black, that you can come together and realize that it's so much for the bigger cause. And as I grew older and I realized that now I'm an adult, it's not even about us anymore, Jill. And that's what we remember. It's about these young kids, such as you're talking about, and how can we really inspire them and let them know that they're not alone, and that we talked about that they have value and they're worthy and that they're loved. And you guys do that. Just listen, you live too far from me, or I'll come visit. But let me get on the plane. But right now, there's a lot of things happening with planes, so wait on that. But I would love to just kind of see and feel it, because just you talking, I can imagine what's happening inside the Ronald McDonald House. It's really inspiring to hear. Do you have a lesson about leadership that's true, whether you're running a nonprofit or a business or even just leading a community?
I go back to that phrase that everybody counts. Every single person counts. Every single person has something that they can bring to the table if they're engaged in the cause. And it doesn't matter their demographic. It doesn't matter if they have a college degree or not. It doesn't matter if they're from a big town or a small town. It doesn't matter what their age is. We have a kid up in Superior, Wisconsin, who's collected, 10,000 pounds of, we call them pop tabs, aluminum tabs from sodas, and which is amazing that this kid can do. Obviously gets a little help from his parents, but it's his thing. And it all matters, and we all matter. And I think, we always treat anybody who comes into our place, who calls us, who emails us, with the utmost respect. And that's just our moral, cultural values here. But the other thing is, you never know who that one person is going to be, who's going to change the direction of your organization for the better. You don't. Yeah. And so, again, that's kind of what I love about all of this. There's no cap on the good we can do.
When you talk about the pop taps for soda cans, because actually when I was, I remember years ago when I was working at the airline industry, in the break room, they had these little houses on each table. And, when everyone drinks soda, what a perfect place to put it. So is for people that are listening that maybe don't think it adds value, how much value that it actually adds to the organization?
Well, it's, the 30% of the weight of the can is in that tab. And that's how it started with Ronald McDonald House. But we get enough of those tabs through our different patrons to fully fund a development position. So, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, there are a lot of pop tabs, beer tabs up in northern Wisconsin.
Listen, you just think about it, from the bars, like downtown areas. People don't know about it, so I think that's a good space to educate someone, because how many times someone drink a Diet Coke or Coke on a daily basis, a case of Coke, and no one saved those tabs. But you're talking about how really impactful it could be. Now I gotta save. I don't really drink soda, but next time I see a soda can, I'm gonna think about it.
Well, it's such a good marketing thing for us too, and an easy thing for a kid to do. And so, every time somebody does that, puts it in the house, they're thinking of us, and that's invaluable.
Yeah. And I love how, I'm guessing it's all over the place, but the house itself just looks pretty neat, and the branding on it. And I truly do love it. And just to think that it's just a little house, you just put it in there and just keep walking. As we continue to close here, I know we can definitely talk for another 30 minutes if you allow me to, but I do want to respect your time. Last thing I want before we get to the blind question, that's the fun part. But the last thing before we get to that blind question is, how can people actually support the Ronald McDonald House? Whether it's their time, whether it's their money, or something else. Is it the website? Is it people are listening and they want to give back, especially after hearing you and how amazing you are. If you can just tell a little more how we can get involved.
Yes. So you can look up your local Ronald McDonald House and see where that is. And I would say reach out to the CEO, that's what I would say, and say that you are interested in being involved. And set up a quick meeting with them to figure out what that is. And if that is volunteering on a one-off basis, on a regular basis, if it means wanting to come to an event or sponsor an event or be a participant, what does that look like? If we love people who have access to things that we need, everything that you need in your house, we need times a million. So think about, Ziploc bags and bleach and all of those things. There's lots of different ways to get involved. And even if you're a good cook and you want to come in and do a meal for our families. So that's what I would suggest. Reach out to the executive director or CEO and say that you want to look at opportunities to participate.
Love it. Jill, you ready for the hot seat question?
I'm ready.
All right. I know you've had a long journey in the nonprofit leadership, but let's really flip the script. What's one thing people assume about your job that couldn't be further from the truth? Good
Um,
one. I love this question for our last leader.
yeah. What they consider about my job that could be furthest from the truth? Oh, that it is very mundane and it's the same thing every day. And it is
Absolutely not.
exactly the opposite because we don't know what is going to happen each day. And what I love about nonprofit, I call it all the spinning plates, myriad of them. And so you're always juggling that. Today was a great day because we just got done with a special event that we call Brew Love North last week. And so we got everybody together in my office and had a little celebration and a little bit of lunch. And I also went and met with one of our McDonald's owner operators to talk about the Roundup campaign today, and that was wonderful. And tomorrow it's a whole litany of completely different things. So it is not boring, it is not mundane, and I can't wait till tomorrow.
And then look what you're doing now. You're on a podcast.
And I'm on a
You're having a
podcast
conversation.
now.
You're talking about the mission. You're still talking about the mission. So no matter what it is that you're doing, it's always still the Ronald McDonald's House.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool about it. So Jill, we asked you the blind question. Now it's time for you to ask the next leader that we interview here on the Hart and Hustle podcast for their question. What does that question sound like?
I think the question is, what's the best job you've ever had, and what did you learn from it that brought you to where you are today?
I love that one. I love that one, Jill. And I can't wait to ask that on the next one. So thank you so much, Jill. It has truly been a pleasure. Like I mentioned, I know we can continue on and on, but I want to respect both of our times here. Thank you so much for allowing us to get to know more about the Ronald McDonald's House. As you mentioned, it is something that so many people actually drive by and may not even understand what's actually happening on the inside or how to help an organization like the Ronald McDonald's House. So it's always been a pleasure. If you're still watching, make sure you guys do subscribe and share. If you guys love the mission, tell a friend to tell a friend. And remember, you can help in so many ways. Jill, it has been a pleasure for you guys watching. My name's Ephraim. We'll catch you guys on the next episode.